I like that one leaf. See it? Go, little leaf, go, go. I wonder where it's going. Welcome back to Rainbows and Razorblades, a show from the void. By the Gregorian calendar, it is currently the last day in the month of March, the third month of the year of the Lord 2022. By the French Revolutionary calendar, it is currently towards the end of the second week of the month of Germinal, the month of seed. Speaking of, here is some wilted last year's yarrow. Smells not so great. Not terrible, but not that usual shit that I'm always bugging about, you know? We come live today, as usual, from Albany's Rural Cemetery in Manans, New York. Today's topics may include dark and triggering subject matter that may not be suitable for all listeners. This program should be considered psychotic and entirely fictional and should not be used for political or academic purposes. Facts are not checked, and no sources or citations will be provided. Should you choose to redistribute my broadcast, please do so with grace and responsibility. Thank you again for joining us. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. Ah! As we walk into a swamp. No! How you guys doing today? That's legitimately a fucking swamp here. Today we have come to visit the skunk cabbage. The skunk cabbage is a very interesting plant because over winter, before any other plant really begins to grow, it is already poking up before anything else has even decided to grow. I don't really know why that is. Maybe it's just a little bit cold resistant. I also wanted to get close to the dam because it used to be my bridge crossing. Those of you who used to watch my show last year before, you know, the new channel and new name, wow, look at this fucking thing. This is how you die. Holy cow. It's creepy. Oh my goodness. I'm not going to break it. It's very spooky. So, I used to cross this log right here. But now, obviously I can't because the whole entire water has now backed up and diverted. And yeah, I mean, where am I going to jump off the log? Where I used to jump off was like right here to right there. But now the whole entire, you know, a beaver would be very proud of that situation. Wow. This used to be a full-scale bridge. When I first started coming here, this was still up. It was still in this shape. It was still in that, it was up. But now, not the whole bridge, but just this part. And then also, this part was also still mostly up. As was this. This is all very recently broken within the last 3 or 5 years. I think I've been coming here now for 7 full years? Something like that. The first time I ever came here was 7 or 8 years ago, but I haven't been coming here consistently for, that long, not even close. But I've been coming here consistently for 5 full years. Look at this old pipe. Bing, 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 bing. I wonder if this is old cast iron. Oh! Oh! Oh. Old bricks. These bricks are probably from the 1920s, maybe 30s. Anyway, we'll be right back. Ooh, should I jump this? It's kind of a jump. It's kind of like a running start jump that if you botch, you're done. We'll be right back on the other side of the river. I'm not going to jump it. Thanks for joining. Bye. So, not really super of interest, but I just want to point out that the bugs do this, right? Like, this is not a natural rot pattern. This is something was creating a hive, right? And it makes me wonder. I mean, obviously, there's no grubs. Well, there probably is. There's probably some grubs in here. But it makes me wonder, like, all these little holes right here that, you know, see that little teeny, well, you probably can't, but there's a teeny little bug there. It makes me wonder, like, see, like, all this right here? How much physical weight of like, how much mass is literally a different organism? Like, how much of it is, like, parasitic to the tree? Like, this tree, you know, you can see it's been hollowed completely out. This will probably fall. I'm surprised it's up. I don't know if you can see the light all the way through the other side of the tree, but it's completely hollow in there. Pretty wild, huh? So I wonder often, you know, how much of the tree is a tree and how much of it is grubs. It doesn't appear that this thing is still alive, but it probably has quite a bit of life left in it. It'll probably still grow some leaves even. Photosynthesize. What's that SpongeBob episode where he's like, photosynthesis? It's a pretty big meme. Brinkerhoff and Pompelli. These are my two favorite names. They're father and son, but I like to speculate that secretly they were gay lovers. Not that the father and son were, but that instead of it being a father and a son situation, it's like two gay guys named Brinkerhoff and Pompelli. Like, it just sounds like that's like probably the case, you know? And then this one's Appleton. Appleton is smaller than I remember, but when you get up close to it, it's pretty big. And then this one over here is pretty cool. It's Stanford with the big S. And then this guy's Jewish. I don't really know what that's all about, but definitely Jewish. Very strange. Anyways, the Appleton, yeah, it's bigger up close. See what I mean? It's huge, right? It's like, wow. How'd they even get all this rock out here? Really, that's actually a real question. Like, how did they get all these rocks out here? It doesn't look like the ants are active yet, but you'll see it. I'll upload it. There's going to be ants going all up here and into there. They make it, there's an ant colony in there, and then there's an ant colony down there, and the two ant colonies are actually the same ant colony. And then they use this as a highway system. You'll see it later on in the year, maybe like in June or July. You'll see it. We'll be right back when there's more interesting stuff. Well, it hasn't been very long. It's actually been not a long time at all. But you see right here, this whole garden bed is kind of how I like to think about it. I actually would like to ask their grounds crew if they would let me churn this area here into an actual natural growth pollinator garden, because I think that'd just be like a perfect place for it. Naturally, you'll see it in the coming season. Wow, what the hell is all this about? Charger block, weird. I guess I'll hold on to that, see if maybe it'll work. I don't really have use for it, but you know, I'm not gonna leave trash out here. I am actually gonna leave some trash. Yeah, like this dog poop, fucking degenerate. Yeah, fucking, I'm not taking that, but someone else will. I feel bad, but I'm not taking it. Sorry. But yeah, just wait. Like, when we flash cut back to this moment, and it's like June, and you're like watching me, and you'll be like, damn, Sarah, you knew that this whole thing is gonna be covered in life. And I will hopefully be able to kill enough of the Oriental Bittersweet early on enough in the season that we'll get a more natural growth instead of the invasive straggle weed or whatever it is that it is. We'll be right back. Welcome back to I flipped over a log and there's a worm. Should I poke it? I'm gonna poke it. Bye. Oh my. Oh. I try to always put the logs back because you don't want to disturb the ecosystem. Because like a lot of bugs, you know, will plant their little bug babies. And yeah, you just don't want to really disturb it. I like this anchor a lot. It's funny, the moment I switched over to verbal dictation without recording is when I spooked those deers. You see them? They're camouflaged. I spooked their hide. Sorry, deers, we're going away. I don't know if you could actually see them, but I feel really bad. I started off just speaking loudly, and then immediately nature responded to me being loud, and I was like, oh gosh, I unsettled all of nature. I felt kind of bad about that. I mean, think about how much panic that those beings over there had to experience because I'm just being a little reckless. It wasn't very nice of me. Atonement is what I was speaking about. Anyways, I'm gonna go back and we'll, you know what we'll do? We'll record verbally to this thing, and then use speech to text on another thing. I don't know. Now, you know what I really gotta do? Is verbal processing not in real time. Like, you feed it information verbally, and it speech to texts it. Let me tell you, Google's pretty good at that. It's pretty good at that. YouTube is pretty good at that. YouTube uses the same Google stuff. It's the same company. Look at this one. This reminds me of a grub. It reminds me of dog poop. It reminds me of a little wiener. Maybe a baby armadillo. It reminds me of, like, here, let me get some light to it. It's a little confusing sometimes. It's a little too eyes you know, Bob. That's how you know. When your narrator starts to sound like dialogue, you know you've gone too far with dialogue. Listen to these fucking birds, dude. This is the. I'm just gonna sit here and shut the fuck up. Could you imagine if we hadn't fucking killed everything? What this would sound like? Like if everything on Earth wasn't like slowly being depleted for resources, the way that once the Imperial Age just reached in the end game of Age of Empires. Like we're out of resources, bro. Damn, this sucks. This is a thorn. Thorns suck because you can't get them out for 3 days because your body has a histamine response to it, which means swelling around the invasive cells, which works really well most of the time. But for thorns, it doesn't really work so well. Look at how, not a helicopter, a woodpecker. Yeah, I'm gonna get a better video. Hold on. Oh, it's funny because some people think I'm just being edgy hanging out here. I'm like, it's not that simple. And I learned that it was not that simple when I brought some kids here who were just being edgy. And I realized that they were kids because they, you know, this kid was like, she was probably 20 years old, 19 years old. And I was like probably like 25. But they were trans and I was curious and they were curious about me, you know. I was like, gotta go meet them, see what they're about. Like, oh, okay. Another one of the male bodies that assuredly wants everyone to believe that it thinks that it perceives being female, but more importantly than that, why would it be doing that unless it is actually perceived itself as female? Like, did you ever consider that? And the cis normies that like just like hate on trans women, really, they don't consider that. It's pretty terrifying. Anyways, so I was curious. Wasn't a great video. So I brought her here and she was trying to just like break shit. She was spitting on things, she pissed on a grave, and I was just like, you're literally going out of your way to be disrespectful. And here's the thing, if I was an adult back then, if I had any like semblance of boundaries back then, I would have put my foot down and said no to that. I'd have been like, listen, we can't really hang out anymore. Like, just the level of disrespect you just showed. I probably would have just said like, listen, I got an emergency call. It's really important that I have you guys be escorted to the exit, and I'll, you know, that's gonna be the end of today. You know, and the thing is because if you try to teach a sociopath a lesson, they're liable to get violent. And knowing that, it's just like you save your moral refrain for later, and you take your object safety more seriously in the moment. You get them away from the place of, you know, significance, and once they're escorted from the building, you know, well, voila, good luck to you. Out of sight, out of mind, you don't become the target. Someone else can go deal with that organism until that organism hurts somebody that isn't you and gets put down in the street or continues to just hurt other people that isn't you. It is what it is. Oh, my butt's wet. That's what I get talking about this stuff, talking shit. There was a story I was telling about sociopaths I've let into my life, and this person was a sociopath that I only spent one day with to learn she was a sociopath. Never had to spend a second day with her. She was so reckless. And then she did that stuff. This is not fiction. This is someone I actually brought here, and it's one of my deepest regrets in the world. Thankfully, she never came back here. She didn't make it an attachment, and I didn't make an attachment to her, but she was one of the most profoundly mentally ill people I had ever encountered, and it frightened me because of how similar we were. I just was still living with my parents, and she was living with her also transgender lover who was also the same age and also disabled and also, you know, spiraled out of control abuse story, just raging drug addict, let their dog shit on the floor on a diaper. Don't ask me how minutes I spent in that house. The thing is knowing what I know now, knowing like what the adult world boundaries are now, knowing that I'm protected as myself legally, and both like I'm not a kid. I'm not gonna get betrayed anymore. I'm a fucking adult, and people need to treat me that way, and they do. Most of the time they do. It doesn't mean that they treat me with respect all the time, but they at least treat me like an adult, and I like it much better that way. I wish that could have been the case as a kid, but I didn't know how to learn it. The thing is, if a kid acts like an adult, some people will still treat it like a kid. But if a kid acts like an adult, some people will actually treat that kid like an adult. And I wish I had learned how to be an adult as a kid. And that's something that people that are traumatized very often say, because they come from abusive childhoods. And they wish that they hadn't, and they want to like make sure it doesn't happen again, or that they can change the past. And once you admit that you can't change the past, it allows for a growth that like you didn't really realize was possible until you learn to let go of the rest of it. And once you let go of the rest of it, you figure out like, well, it isn't just like you let go and you, oh, the revelation, I figured it out. It's like you let go, and slowly your roots can begin to try to feel for something that might be soil. And when you find that, you can slowly colonize it to try to bring back the information and spiritual awareness into your lived experience narratively in a way that is self-directed. And it is the core of what life is. And if you don't do that, well, bad things happen. Bad things come to fruition. And you know that the bad things will come to fruition because it isn't like you don't fear it in the moment. It's not like you don't tell yourself it. It's that maybe you're stupid and you still use that as like a punishment. Like, well, if you don't go to work, you're going to be unhappy and be homeless, which might very well be true. But it also might be that you should just like completely shift your perspective and mindset on what it is that you think the game that you're playing and what you're doing, and just start over. You know, it amazes me how many people don't just try to start over, and how many people are not conversely, but just like in addition to that, the other type is just like people who didn't ask to start over, that their lives were just upended and ruined. Life can be cut short. Life can be drastically shifted. It can move like a flood, both emotionally, and trying to hang on to something after a hurricane has hit it is just like, you can sort through the wreckage all you want forever. And you have to do that at first. You absolutely have to. It's part of the grieving process. You don't just immediately evacuate the area. It wouldn't really be, you wouldn't do that. You just wouldn't do that. You wouldn't immediately, you wouldn't. I mean, you could. And certainly people would sometimes have to if they were like forced off, but the metaphor is that you have to be able to sort through the ruin. You have to be able to see what washes up on shore after the, you know. So my mind goes and makes a biblical story out of it. Oh, come on. I'm trying to just get one good video shot, and like every time I do it, something goes wrong. Like the first time, it was too bright. The second time, I threw them too far and the wind took them. The second time, I threw them the right way, but like because, I don't know, I'm very angry. I just want one good shot. I'm very impatient. I want to do other things. This isn't a planned shot. Planned shots is a lot better. This is not a planned shot. I'm just going a mile a minute. I'm stimming. I'm mixing so many ideas together. It's fucking amazing. So here's how I'm going to illustrate that story that I just told you. The Candy Chan universe exists for me to meta-self-cognizantly self-actualize a surrogate character the same way that someone like Dungeons & Dragons would, and use it for trauma processing, because I know exactly what I'm doing, and I'm trying to teach other people and myself a lesson of a super archetype of character that is living through the metaphorical, experiential, teaching extreme metaphors within a genre-confined motif of cyberpunk, cyborg, transgender, body growth, like life, like it's less about body horror and more about life and death, and crazy insane. The body horror comes into play only in very strange ways, and you know, really strange things happen within my universe. But for the most part, it focuses on war and the trauma of loss and confusion. It focuses on pretty dark topics, but it's explored in this like very sinister, like, it isn't what's the word, pedophilic. It's just that it's unapologetically childish in a way that actually merges adult and child psyche in such a way that you realize that the character is actually healthier than the character would have been if it didn't already go through the process of learning that about itself before the story has started, so that it can describe itself in nuance to other characters who, for the most part, they just aren't willing to listen to it. They don't have time for it. They aren't smart enough, or they're too dedicated to a different agenda, or, more importantly, our character actually doesn't want to talk to them. Right? It's really interesting how many of different characters in the story that our character just chooses, like, I just don't want to talk to you right now. coming in like a thug. Yo, I'm on life, son. Like a thug. You know, that's the kind of stuff that if you practice it enough saying it, and you get buck wild with it, and you learn to like use certain different like dialectics, syntaxes, and but it's practiced and it's learned, because you have to practice it. You have to have someone tease you and bully you about it. Like, man, you say that's stupid, because otherwise you sound like a fucking idiot. you just sound like an outsider. And certain different things are actually like polished, right? Like, there's just different modes of expression that are learned to be articulated in such a way that like it forms what we call like an accent. And so my story has a very autistic, unique accent to it. Car went by me and very much surprised me. I'm not used to seeing anybody here, you know? It's nice because I have this this meme that I can do. Sun. I forget how to say the sun. It's light. It's like thank you for light. And I believe that's why they light candles, perhaps. I'm not really sure if that's why, but it definitely is like a beautiful sacrament to make, where you do some magic and you figure out that that's like a core way to live, and you let it guide your life by principle of behavior through ritualistic kind of intermergence of spirit and of mind and of body and of whatever is going on out here and the rest of it. I'm a very mixed metaphor. My thoughts spin out of control really easily, like a car on the highway, going 90 in a 65, get it into the sunrise. I haven't learned yet how to become something cohesive, and so a lot of the time I just speak in these broken abstracts that drive people fucking nuts, and I never actually finish a sentence. I just open. It's like code that never stops writing itself. It's just like it's like a header opens, a header opens, a header opens, a header opens, right? It's just like it's broken code. I feel like I've pissed off these birds because I've been here so long. They're starting to get like fucked up about it. I mean, I don't really care. Like they will still be able to pass on their genetics, even if I'm bumming them. I was wondering, you know, what is it that would it take to be able to organize myself and not just spiral out like this? I love doing it. I love spiraling out, but it ultimately doesn't lead me anywhere, and it's just like that part isn't so fun, even though in the moment it's a lot of fun to just ramble, and I wish that was like a job that I could have, just rambling these ideas to other people that actually would think that my ideas were worth it. But the thing is a rambling lunatic whack job is only having fun for himself. That's why he's on a park bench where you found him. Or in a creative Hollywood studio with like 2 assistants. Like how lit would that be? I see that as like very improbable for myself, because like I don't think that I could materialistically survive in an autistic stim hell world like Los Angeles. Maybe I could. Well, I want to. And therefore, I conclude that I should get Discord help. Yep. Thank you, Mr. Hawk. I was hoping you'd do that. Wow. Show off. I know what it's like. I too have been a bird. In fact, I was probably one of the best birds in the world. I played Druid in World of Warcraft for like fucking 6 years. Fuck yeah, I was so good at it. They gave me flying form 2 levels earlier than everyone else, and then they gave me a faster bird speed than anybody else. And I was like, yes, the druids have been rewarded at last. unless you're a druid main, then hello. I am also a druid main. I played a giant male cow, and then I transitioned into a female night elf. I'm not joking. Welcome to my life just took a sudden dramatic and terrible turn. My partner's car, which they use to drive and commute to my house a couple times a week to sleep over a couple days a week, just failed. And there's no way to just amend that issue. It's not something that's going to be resolved. It's the car's fucked. That's the end of it. We're not going to see each other as much, period, the end. And I'm having a really hard time dealing with that. Because I was expecting their call to be like, hey babe, I'm on the way, instead of like, hey, the mechanic said it's fucked, I can't even bring the car, I can't drive it, it's fucked. And it isn't going to be unfucked. It's not a matter of money, the car is fucked. And yeah, I don't know what else to say.